I guess every good person needs an origin story. And since I write for the Bourbon Master here and started this blog and this YouTube channel, I guess I got to kind of frame myself up with my origin story. So again, my name's Chris Wilkie. Welcome to the Bourbon Master YouTube channel and the video and the blog if you're watching this there. You can see I talk with my hands a lot and I drink a good amount of bourbon. I just did a review over Old Forester 100 proof here. You can watch that on the YouTube channel as well. Check it out, my review notes on the blog. But I wanted to spend some time today on my origin story. Why do I like bourbon? It's a very good question. So let's think back. Probably the first time that I had bourbon, it was an American Marketing Association meeting. I'm a marketer by trade. And I went up to the NDAMA and we were at this place in Broad Ripple. And the presenter, I was a student intern during my senior year. I just turned 21 and they were doing a presentation with Maker's Mark and their Maker's Mark Club, their ambassador club. They're basically talking about the whole program is overall. And I remember sitting in the back and I was getting ready after I graduate to join collegiate relations and then go do the president of that club. So I was getting to know some people. And there's a guy named Andy I sat with. And they had laid out on the tables 2 shots of bourbon, 2 tastings. And Rob Samuelson came up and he was actually, or Junior, was actually doing the presentation. And he was explaining his dad's story with bourbon and how they do everything. And he told me, yeah, if you see a bottle of Maker's Mark and it has a curved piece of wax on the back, that means our left-handed lady dipped that bottle. Her name's this, and she's amazing. She talked about their whole relationship marketing that was tied to the Ambassador Club, and I loved it. Also loved the fact that we were the only 2 at a table for 8, and we got to drink all of the bourbon on the table. And he taught you how to taste bourbon. He said, you don't just go like that. You don't do it. You take it and you let it sit on the front of your tongue and let it gently roll back. First taste is going to be really harsh on alcohol. Second taste, you're going to start tasting the sweetness at the front. You're going to start tasting this and you're going to start tasting that. And it really was fascinating. And I learned right then, and I'm not sure if he meant this or not, but that bourbon wasn't a drink I was going to sit and chug on. College years, beer, I'm a craft beer guy by nature. I mean, I'm wearing a Guardian Brewing Company shirt right now. I love my craft beer, don't get me wrong. But bourbon's something that is a taste that has been acquired and kind of built up over time. So that happened. Signed up for the Ambassador Club. I pretty much, at that point, kind of went in a little bit, tried some. But Maker's was my standard. Maker's and Sprite would be my drink. And I kind of fell off. I went heavy craft beer after that point. And once you get into craft beer, your taste buds, you basically wreck them. You like to have bold flavors that you're tasting. You either go the stouts, or you go the hoppy with the IPAs, or you go into the Belgian and quad land, quads and triples and saisons and all of that. Bourbon's a natural complement to most of those things. And probably one of my favorite styles of beer is a bourbon barrel-aged beer. You sit here, New Holland Dragon's Milk, key bourbon thing, Kentucky Bourbon Barrel Stout, KBS, I mean, that's going to be your founders there, so it's Kentucky Barrel Stout. There's CBS, you get the Canadian with the maple syrup in there. There's a lot of different ones that I can play into that I absolutely love. And then at a point you realize you can't sit and drink craft beer all day long and stock it in your fridge. You can only have so many flavors and your tongue almost not craves, but it wants something with a lot of pizzazz. I don't want to sit and have 20 beers in a week. I may want to have 1 or 2 bourbons, or I may want to go out and enjoy something that's nice and easy. So I started kind of playing around with bourbon some, and most of it was at our local golf course. They had bourbon, I'd mix it with some Sprite, and I started going. My go-to was a Gentleman Jack, Knob Creek, Bullets, those. And then started getting into wanting to try a few more craft spirits of sorts. And kind of started going down that road of, okay, let's try this. Okay, let's try this. And over probably about the last 4 to 5 years, I've really gotten into the transition of I love my breweries, but I also love distilleries. And I've started getting into stopping and trying. I've been to Four Roses and got to sit with the ladies and got basically drunk in the morning about 9 a.m. on the way to a golf trip. I've met Russell from Russell's Reserve at Wild Turkey. He signed my bottle and we chatted for a little bit. I started learning some of the people behind it. And as you learn the people, you learn that there's a lot more to this glass than just, oh yes, I'm Old Forester, here's what I've got. There's a story, there's a rich history. There is a lot more in here than just some brown liquid. If you watch some of the documentaries of brown bourbon, you hear that same kind of thing. There's no more true American spirit. Everything else has come out. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not a vodka fan, not a rum fan, but when you can have something that has a story, and I can sit here, and what I taste, you may disagree with, but we both might be right, it's fascinating to me. So I've started tasting and doing more and getting into that field, and what I do is I always like to say there's a few different kinds of bourbon drinkers. There's collectors who want to get all the fancy bottles and put them on a shelf to show everybody. There's your standard old school who have one they like. It's like my guys at the Elks that they're doing CCs and Coke. They're Club Canadian, that's what they're always gonna drink. Then you got some people like me who are enjoyers. I like to take this bottle and I wanna share it with somebody. You won't find my bourbon collection right now. Probably this time 6 months ago, I had about 20 bottles at the house. This time right now, I have about 5. I share, I drink. Like if you see our bourbon council, we all bring our bottles over, we have a good time. It's a social event. I think one of the best ones, there's a documentary said, yeah, I had this great bottle, I think it was a Pappy, and we wanted to save it back for a special occasion. And my dad said, well, what's better than a special occasion that we're all alive today and we're here? Let's drink. And they ended up drinking that entire bottle that evening. And like 2 days later, his dad passed away. I think it was the guy who does tours at Buffalo Trace or worked in the rick houses. That's what I like. Every bottle has a story, and I can share this story, and I can make my own stories with other people based upon what I'm having. I've taken trips to go to distilleries, have had fun with friends tasting different bottles, have been to tastings, have purchased barrel selects, have sought out the allocated bourbons, have tried some really crappy stuff, and have had some amazing pours places. And I think it all kind of went down to, as you build up to it, I liked some of the bourbons. Then I went to old fashions. I remember I was on a quest one vacation to find the best old fashioned in Florida. And I had an old fashioned at every freaking place we went to, and every single person made it different. And I think that's where I fell in love. I fell in love with the story, the people, and the fact that everything can be different in a glass. Same like craft beer. I think that's kind of why bourbon and the craft beer world fit together nicely, and I think that's why I fell into it. So why did I call myself the Bourbon Master? The URL is available. I ran a blog called FBA Master for a while because the URL was available, and I kind of fell into that. So it's really easy for me to go, oh, here's the Bourbon Master stuff. Am I a master of bourbon? No, I'm a master of nothing. I enjoy bourbon, I enjoy talking about it, and I enjoy trying to produce this great content. So I want to thank you for listening to my origin story. I hope to raise a glass, and I will talk to you all later. Make sure to subscribe and like this video whenever you get a chance.